It was a rainy evening in the city. The streets were wet, reflecting the lights of the shops and street lamps. People hurried by, holding umbrellas, trying to get home before the rain got heavier. Among them was a young woman, carrying a small tote bag, her hair slightly damp from the light drizzle. She walked with a sense of purpose, but also a quiet hopefulness, as if she was expecting something good to happen, though she didn't know what. She ducked into a small bookstore to escape the rain. The bell above the door jingled softly as she entered. The smell of old books mixed with the fresh scent of rain made the place feel warm and welcoming. She wandered among the shelves, her fingers brushing the spines of books, enjoying the quiet moment. She liked the way bookstores felt like little worlds of their own, each book holding a story waiting to be discovered. At the same time, a young man hurried down the street trying to avoid the rain. He was carrying a messenger bag slung over his shoulder and his coat was soaked. He had just finished a long day at work, feeling tired but relieved that it was finally over. He spotted the bookstore and decided to take a break, hoping to warm up and maybe find something interesting to read. As he pushed open the door, the bell jingled, and he stepped inside, grateful for the shelter. The bookstore was cozy and quiet. There weren't many people inside, just a few browsing the shelves. The young woman was standing near the fiction section, looking at a collection of classic novels. She pulled one off the shelf, opening it to read a few lines. When she felt the sudden rush of air as someone bumped into her. "Oh, I'm so sorry," the young man said quickly, looking concerned. He had accidentally knocked into her while trying to adjust his bag. "No, it's okay," she replied with a small smile, shaking her head. There was a gentle warmth in his voice that immediately made her feel at ease. They both laughed softly, the awkwardness melting away. The young man noticed the book in her hands and commented, "That's one of my favorites." "The writing is beautiful." She looked up surprised. "Really? I've always wanted to read it, but I never got around to it." "Tsk. Then you're in for a treat," he said, his eyes lighting up with excitement. They began talking about the book, sharing their thoughts and favorite parts. The conversation felt easy, natural, as if they had known each other for a long time. Time seemed to slow down in that small corner of the bookstore, the rain softly tapping against the windows outside. After a while, the young man glanced at his watch. "I should probably get going before the rain gets worse," he said, a hint of regret in his voice. "I guess I should too," she replied, feeling a little reluctant. They both hesitated, unsure if they should part ways so soon. "Maybe we'll run into each other again," he said with a small smile. There was something in his expression, a quiet hopefulness, that made her heart flutter. As they stepped back into the rain, the city felt different somehow. The streets didn't seem quite as gray, and the rain didn't feel so cold. They walked in opposite directions, but both of them couldn't help glancing back, wondering if this chance encounter was the beginning of something special. Over the next few days, the young woman found herself thinking about the young man and the conversation they had shared. She replayed their words in her mind, smiling at the memory of his excitement and warmth. It felt strange, almost magical. How meeting someone for a few minutes could leave such a strong impression. She couldn't explain it, but she felt that their meeting wasn't just a coincidence. The young man couldn't stop thinking about her. He remembered the way she had laughed, the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about the book. It was unusual for him to feel such a connection with someone so quickly, but he knew there was something different about her, something that made him want to know her better. A week later, found themselves in the same place again, though neither had planned it. The young woman had returned to the bookstore, hoping to find a new book to read. The young man had come in to browse as well, drawn back by the comforting atmosphere. As they saw each other across the room, they both smiled, surprised but happy. "Hi again," he said, walking over. "Hi," she replied, her smile matching his. There was a spark in the air, a feeling that this meeting was meant to happen. They spent the afternoon talking, sharing stories about their lives, their dreams, and the little things that made them happy. They discovered that they had similar tastes in books, music, and even food. It was uncanny how much they had in common, yet it felt natural, not forced. The conversation flowed effortlessly, filled with laughter, curiosity, and moments of quiet understanding. As the day turned into evening, the rain stopped and the streets began to dry. They decided to take a walk together, enjoying the fresh smell of the city after the rain. The young woman noticed the way the light reflected off the wet pavement, making everything look brighter and more alive. The young man pointed out a small cafe nearby, and they went in to warm up with a cup of tea. Inside the cafe, they found a cozy table by the window. They continued their conversation, talking about books, travel, and their childhood memories. It felt as though they had known each other for much longer than a few brief encounters. There was a sense of comfort and familiarity, a connection that went beyond words. Before they knew it, hours had passed. The young woman glanced at her watch, surprised at how quickly time had flown. "I should probably get home," she said reluctantly. "Yeah, me too," he replied, a hint of disappointment in his voice. They stood up, gathering their things. But neither wanted the day to end as they stepped outside. The sky was clear, and the first stars were beginning to appear. The young man hesitated for a moment, then said, "Would you like to meet again? Maybe tomorrow?" She smiled, feeling her heart lift. "I'd like that," she said. There was a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something important was beginning. They parted ways once more, at this time with a promise of seeing each other again. Both walked home with a lightness in their steps, a quiet happiness that lingered long after they were apart. The city, with its lights and streets and quiet corners, seemed a little more magical now, as if it had conspired to bring them together in the days that followed. They met often, each encounter deepening their connection. They discovered little coincidences that felt like Sign's favorite songs playing at the right moments. Running into each other at the park, finding the same book at the library, it all seemed too perfect to be chance. And they both began to feel that their meeting was something extraordinary. The young woman realized that she looked forward to these moments more than anything else in her day. Her life, once routine and ordinary, now felt filled with excitement and wonder. She found herself noticing the small details around her, the beauty in everyday life. As if everything had taken on a new meaning, the young man felt the same. His days, once monotonous and predictable, were now brightened by the thought of her smile, her laugh, and the warmth of her presence. He found himself hoping for little things, an unexpected message, a shared joke, a chance meeting that would bring them together again. And so, their story began, quietly and gently, like a seed planted in fertile soil. There was no grand gesture or dramatic moment, just the simple magic of two hearts recognizing each other, two lives beginning to intertwine. It was the kind of love that felt timeless, the kind that could change a person in ways they could not yet imagine. Even though they didn't know what the future held, they both felt certain of one thing: their meeting was no accident. Something had drawn them together, something that neither could explain but both could feel. It was the beginning of a journey, a story that would grow and unfold in ways that neither of them could yet see. And as the city lights flickered and the night grew quiet, the first chapter of their magical love story quietly came to life. Days turned into weeks, and the young woman and the young man found themselves drawn together by what felt like an invisible thread. Their meetings, though still casual, began to happen more often, sometimes by chance and sometimes by quiet intention. They started to notice each other in unexpected places, like a small cafe tucked away on a side street or a quiet corner of the park where they both liked to read. Each encounter felt like a small miracle, and they both began to cherish these moments as if the world had slowed down just for them. One morning, the young woman decided to visit the city's botanical garden. She loved the way the sun filtered through the leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow on the ground. She wandered among the flowers, lost in thought, when she saw him sitting on a bench, sketching the trees in a notebook. He looked up and smiled when he noticed her, and she felt her heart skip a beat. She walked over and greeted him. He invited her to sit beside him. They spent hours in the garden, talking about art, nature, and their dreams for the future. He showed her his sketches, and she admired the way he captured the delicate details of the flowers and trees. She shared her own thoughts and feelings, discovering that they both had a deep appreciation for the beauty in simple things. The garden became their secret place, a small world where they could escape from the busy city and just be themselves. As the days passed, they found more ways to connect. They discovered a shared love for music and began exchanging playlists, each one carefully curated with songs that reminded them of each other. Listening to the music became a way to feel close even when they were apart. There were mornings when she would wake up to find a song he had sent her the night before, and she would smile, feeling a warmth that stayed with her throughout the day. He, too, would find himself humming a tune she had recommended, feeling a quiet happiness that made the world seem brighter. One rainy afternoon, they decided to explore a quiet part of the city they had never visited before. They wandered down narrow streets lined with old buildings, stopping to look at small shops and street art. The rain had left the streets shiny and reflective, and they laughed as they splashed through puddles together. It was a playful, carefree day, and they both felt as if they were in a world made just for them. The magic of the day was in the small, simple moments, sharing an umbrella, laughing at their reflections in the puddles, and stealing glances that spoke more than words ever could. During this time, they also shared more personal stories. She told him about her childhood, the small joys and struggles she had experienced, and he listened with a quiet understanding that made her feel safe. He, in turn, opened up about his own life, his fears and aspirations, and the things that had shaped him into who he was. With each story, their connection grew stronger. They began to realize that their bond was deeper than either of them had imagined. It wasn't just attraction or curiosity. It was a feeling of recognition, as if they had always been meant to find each other. They started to notice small coincidences that felt almost magical. Favorite songs would play when they met. They would randomly think of each other at the same time, or they would arrive at the same place without planning it. These moments made them laugh and shake their heads in disbelief, but they also made them feel that there was something extraordinary about their connection. It was as if the universe was quietly nudging them together, and they began to trust that there was a reason for it. As the bond between them deepened, they also began to share quiet, reflective moments. They would sit together in the park, watching the clouds drift by, or sit by a window in a cafe, sipping tea and talking about nothing and everything. These moments, though simple, were filled with a sense of peace and contentment that neither had experienced before. It was a feeling of being understood, of being seen, and it made each of them feel more alive. One evening, they attended a small local art exhibition. Walking among the paintings, they discussed the emotions the artwork evoked and how it resonated with their own experiences. They found themselves laughing and teasing each other, yet also pausing to share quiet, meaningful looks. As the night grew darker, they stepped outside, and the city lights reflected off the wet streets, creating a soft glow. They walked side by side in comfortable silence, feeling a sense of unity and shared understanding that went beyond words. They began to create little traditions together. Sometimes, they would meet at the same cafe on Sunday mornings, sharing a quiet breakfast and discussing their plans for the week. Other times, they would take long walks along the river, talking about everything and nothing. These traditions gave them a sense of stability and connection, and they both looked forward to these moments as the highlights of their days. Through all these experiences, they discovered that their bond was not just about joy and laughter. They also shared moments of vulnerability and support. When one of them felt uncertain or discouraged, the other would be there to offer encouragement and comfort. These moments of emotional support strengthened their trust and deepened their affection for each other. They began to realize that love was not just about grand gestures or magical coincidences. It was also about being present for each other in the small, everyday ways. As the weeks continued, their connection became a source of inspiration for both of them. The young woman found herself writing more, exploring her thoughts and feelings through words, while he found his sketches becoming more expressive and detailed. They encouraged each other to pursue their passions, and in doing so, they discovered that their love was a catalyst for personal growth and self-discovery. Each felt that the other had brought a sense of magic and purpose into their life that they had never experienced before. One afternoon, while sitting on a bench overlooking the city, they watched the sunset together. The sky was painted with shades of orange, pink, and purple, and the light reflected in their eyes as they talked quietly about their dreams for the future. They held hands not as a gesture of possession, but as a simple expression of closeness and trust. In that moment, it felt as if the world had paused, allowing them to exist in a bubble of shared understanding and affection. Even in their separate moments, they felt connected. She would catch herself smiling at a memory of something he had said, or notice a detail in the city that reminded her of him. He would think about her at unexpected times, feeling a quiet warmth that lingered throughout his day. Their connection had become a gentle, pervasive presence in their lives, subtle but undeniable. They also began to notice how their relationship affected the people around them. Friends commented on the way they seemed happier, more confident, and more alive. It wasn't just the joy of companionship. It was the way they inspired each other to see the beauty in life, to embrace small moments of magic, and to approach the world with curiosity and hope. Their love was becoming a force that extended beyond just the two of them, touching the lives of those around them in quiet, meaningful ways. As part 2 of their story unfolded, it became clear that their connection was not fleeting. It was a bond that grew stronger with each passing day, nourished by shared experiences, quiet moments, and the subtle magic of coincidences that seemed to guide them together. They began to understand that their meeting had been more than a chance encounter. It was the start of something profound, love that had the power to transform their lives. And so, with each shared smile, each thoughtful conversation, and each quiet moment of understanding, their magical love continued to grow, quietly and steadily, creating a foundation that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. The story of their connection was no longer just a series of happy coincidences. It had become a journey of discovery, a deepening bond, and a love that promised to change both of their lives in ways they could not yet fully imagine. As their connection deepened, life began to throw challenges their way. The young woman had always dreamed of studying abroad to pursue her career, and now an opportunity had arisen, one that she could not ignore. At first she was excited, imagining the possibilities and adventures ahead. But the thought of leaving the young man behind filled her with a quiet sadness she hadn't expected. She knew that the distance would test their bond in ways neither of them had faced before. The young man, meanwhile, had been offered a promotion at work that required longer hours and more travel. It was the kind of opportunity he had been working toward for years. But he worried about how it would affect his relationship with the young woman. He didn't want to hold her back, yet the idea of being apart made his heart ache. Both of them faced decisions that would change their lives, and neither knew how to balance ambition with the delicate, magical connection they had nurtured. They tried to focus on the present, cherishing the time they had together. They met whenever they could, their conversations filled with laughter, shared dreams, and quiet moments of understanding. But as the departure date approached, a sense of tension began to creep in. Each glance, each word, carried an unspoken weight, and the carefree joy of their early meetings began to fade under the pressure of reality. One evening, they walked along the river, the sky painted in shades of gray as rain threatened to fall. The young woman broke the silence. "I've been offered the chance to go abroad," she said softly, her voice tinged with both excitement and fear. "It's something I've dreamed about, but I don't know how we'll manage." The young man took a deep breath, his mind racing. He wanted to encourage her to follow her dreams, but the thought of being apart was unbearable. "I'm happy for you," he said carefully, "but I'm scared too. I don't want to lose what we have." They sat in silence for a while, the river reflecting the stormy sky above. Both felt the weight of the moment pressing down on them. The realization that life was moving forward and that change was inevitable. Their connection, once effortless and magical, now faced the first real test. Over the next few weeks, they tried to prepare for the separation. They made plans to stay in touch, promising calls, messages, and visits whenever possible. Yet the reality of distance brought unexpected challenges. Misunderstandings crept in, small disagreements that seemed trivial at first, but grew under the strain of time zones, busy schedules, and unspoken fears. The young woman sometimes felt lonely in her new surroundings, missing the comfort of his presence, while he felt the sting of absence and the frustration of not being able to support her in person. One rainy night, after a particularly difficult conversation, the young woman sat alone in her apartment, feeling a mix of sadness and longing. She remembered their first meeting in the bookstore, the way their connection had felt instant and magical. Now the distance made her question whether that magic could survive the realities of life. She felt a deep ache in her chest, realizing how much she truly cared for him and how much she missed the simple moments they had shared. The young man, on the other hand, spent sleepless nights walking through the city streets. Thinking about her, he replayed their conversations, wishing he could have said something differently. Wishing he could hold her hand and tell her that everything would be okay. The distance was testing not only their love, but also their patience and trust. He felt the weight of responsibility, wanting to protect the bond they had built, while also understanding that life's opportunities could not be ignored, despite their efforts. The strain of separation led to misunderstandings that neither could immediately resolve. A missed message, a delayed reply, or a small miscommunication became magnified, creating doubt and fear. They began to question whether the magic they had felt could withstand these challenges. Both felt the pain of uncertainty, wondering if the love that had once seemed destined could survive the trials of distance and change. During this period, they each turned inward, reflecting on their emotions and priorities. The young woman immersed herself in her studies and work, finding solace in her achievements but always carrying the weight of longing in her heart. She realized how much the young man had become a part of her life, how his presence had shaped her days, and how deeply she missed the comfort and warmth of being with him. The young man sought support from friends and family, but even their advice could not ease the ache of absence. He discovered that love was not just about proximity. It was about trust, understanding, and the willingness to endure challenges together. Yet, despite his best efforts, he felt the sting of separation, the quiet loneliness that came from being apart from someone who had become so central to his life. One day, they both found themselves at the same park where they had spent countless afternoons together. Neither had planned it, yet there they were, drawn by the memories that lingered in the space. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the distance and tension melted away. They walked together in silence, each lost in thought, each carrying the weight of longing and uncertainty. It was a bittersweet reunion, filled with unspoken emotions and the realization that love could be both beautiful and painful as they sat on a familiar bench. Watching the river flow, the young woman spoke softly. "I miss the way things used to be," she said. Her voice trembled with emotion, revealing the depth of her feelings. "I miss the small moments, the laughter, the magic." He reached out and held her hand gently. "I miss it too," he replied. "But maybe the magic isn't gone. Maybe it's just hidden for now. We have to trust that it's still there, even when we can't see it." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking, sharing their fears, hopes, and regrets. The conversation was raw and honest, filled with vulnerability and a deep desire to understand each other. They realized that love was not just about happy moments. It was also about facing challenges together, even when it was painful. The distance had tested them, but it had also revealed the strength of their bond, the depth of their feelings, and the resilience of their connection. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the river, they made a silent promise to each other to endure the challenges, to trust in their bond, and to hold on to the magic that had brought them together in the first place. They knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but they also knew that their love was worth the effort, worth the pain, and worth the hope that someday they would be reunited without obstacles. In the days that followed, they continued to navigate the complexities of distance and responsibility. There were moments of doubt and frustration, but also moments of beauty and connection. They learned to communicate with patience, to listen with empathy, and to appreciate the small gestures that reminded them of each other. A simple message, a shared memory, or a photograph became a lifeline, a way to maintain the bond that had become central to their lives. Through it all, they discovered that true love was not just about being together. It was about growing together, supporting each other, and finding strength in the face of challenges. The separation had tested their love, but it had also deepened it, revealing a resilience and devotion that neither had anticipated. They realized that the magic they had felt from the beginning was not gone. It had simply taken a different form, one that required patience, trust, and unwavering commitment. And so, as part 3 of their story unfolded, they faced the first real trials of life, learning that love was not always easy, but it was always worth it. The challenges they encountered were painful, yet they also became a testament to the depth of their connection, the strength of their feelings, and the enduring magic that had brought them together. Despite the separation and misunderstandings, their hearts remained intertwined, and the promise of a brighter, more magical future kept them moving forward, holding on to hope and to each other. Time passed, and the young woman and the young man continued to navigate the challenges that life had placed in front of them. Though distance had created tension and moments of doubt, the pull between them remained strong, an invisible thread that neither could ignore. Every call, message, and memory shared kept the connection alive, but both of them longed for the day when they could be together without obstacles. One sunny afternoon, the young woman decided to visit a small art exhibition in the city. She had heard that some of the works were inspired by nature. She thought it might be a refreshing escape from her busy schedule. As she walked through the gallery, admiring the paintings and photographs, she noticed a familiar figure across the room. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized it was him. She wasn't sure if he had seen her yet, but the sight of him made her feel as though time had momentarily stopped. The young man, on the other hand, was absorbed in a painting when he felt a presence behind him. Turning around, he froze for a moment, and then a smile spread across his face as he saw her standing there. It was unexpected, unplanned, and yet it felt like fate had brought them together once more. He walked over, his steps quickening, and she did the same. When they finally met, the space between them seemed to vanish, and the tension of the past weeks melted into relief and joy. They spent the rest of the afternoon together, exploring the exhibition, sharing thoughts, and laughing at small details that caught their attention. It was as though the universe had orchestrated this reunion, creating the perfect moment for them to reconnect. The magic that had first drawn them together was alive again, more vibrant than ever. And both of them felt a sense of wonder that they hadn't experienced in weeks. After leaving the gallery, they decided to take a walk through the nearby park. The city felt alive with spring colors, the air filled with the scent of flowers and the gentle warmth of the sun. They walked side by side, talking about everything and nothing, feeling the ease and comfort of being in each other's presence once again. The young woman felt a sense of relief and happiness, realizing how much she had missed him and how much their connection meant to her. As they reached a quiet corner of the park, the young man stopped and turned to her. "I didn't expect to see you today," he said softly, "but I'm so glad I did." "Me too," she replied, her voice filled with warmth. "It feels like the world has finally aligned for us." They sat down on a bench, and the conversation turned to their time apart. They shared their fears, frustrations, and the challenges they had faced, speaking openly and honestly. There were tears and laughter, moments of vulnerability and reassurance. It was a conversation that strengthened their bond, allowing them to see how resilient their love had become. The young man reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I don't want to be apart anymore," he said, his eyes reflecting the depth of his feelings. "I've realized that life is too short to let distance come between us. I want to be with you, no matter what." She looked into his eyes, feeling the same certainty. "I want that too," she said. "I don't care about the challenges anymore. I just want us to be together." With that, they made a quiet promise to each other, a commitment to face whatever life might bring together. The separation had shown them the strength of their love, and now, reunited, they felt ready to embrace the future with hope and determination. The magic that had first brought them together was no longer just a series of coincidences. It was a bond that had been tested and proven, a connection that would endure. In the days that followed, they began to plan ways to be closer. They coordinated visits, shared their schedules, and made time for each other despite busy lives. The young woman returned to the city more often, finding joy in the little moments they shared. They explored new places together, from quiet streets to bustling markets, each experience strengthening their bond and filling their days with laughter and warmth. They also discovered new layers of their connection. They started cooking together, experimenting with recipes and laughing at their mistakes. They went on long walks, talking about dreams and fears, and found comfort in the simple act of being present with each other. Each shared moment felt like a piece of magic, a reminder that love was not just in grand gestures, but in the everyday experiences that made life beautiful. One evening, they attended a small concert in the park. As the music played, they sat on a blanket, leaning against each other, letting the sound wash over them. The young woman rested her head on his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known for weeks. The young man held her close, feeling grateful for the reunion and for the strength of their connection. It was a quiet, intimate moment, yet it carried a profound sense of meaning. The magic of their love became even more apparent in small coincidences. A favorite song would play at the right moment, a shared memory would surface unexpectedly, or a simple gesture would remind them of the bond they had nurtured. Each occurrence felt like a confirmation that their connection was extraordinary, a reminder that the universe had brought them together for a reason. They also began to envision a future together. They talked about dreams and possibilities, imagining a life where they could support each other, grow together, and face challenges as a team. Their conversations were filled with hope and determination, each word strengthening the foundation of their love. They realized that the trials they had faced had made them stronger, more resilient, and more certain of the importance of their bond as the weeks turned into months. They continued to create memories that would last a lifetime. They celebrated small victories, comforted each other in moments of doubt, and found joy in the simple pleasures of life. Their love was no longer just a magical connection. It had become a guiding force, shaping their decisions, inspiring their actions, and bringing meaning to their everyday lives. One crisp evening, they found themselves walking along the river once more, the city lights reflecting in the water. The young woman paused, taking in the beauty of the moment. "It feels like we've been through so much," she said softly. "And yet here we are, stronger than ever." The young man nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "Yes," he replied, "and I think that's what makes our love so special. We've faced challenges, yet we've never let go. We've trusted, hoped, and believed. And now we can finally enjoy being together without fear." They walked in comfortable silence, feeling the depth of their connection and the joy of being reunited. The magic that had first drawn them together had evolved into something even more profound, a love built on trust, resilience, and shared experiences. It was a love that could endure distance, challenges, and uncertainty. A love that had been tested and proven true as part 4 of their story unfolded. They discovered that reunions could be as magical as first encounters, that love could grow stronger through trials, and that the bond between two hearts could withstand time and distance. The young woman and the young man felt a renewed sense of hope, a belief that their journey together was just beginning and that the future held countless moments of joy, discovery, and shared magic. The young woman and the young man had now reached a point in their story where life felt brighter, fuller, and more meaningful than ever before. After the trials of separation and the challenges that tested their bond, they had learned the true strength of their love. They understood that magic was not only in chance encounters or coincidences, but in the everyday moments, in the laughter, the quiet conversations, and the unspoken support they gave each other. They spent their days exploring the city together, finding joy in small adventures. One morning, they visited a local farmer's market, wandering between stalls filled with fresh produce, homemade breads, and colorful flowers. They laughed as they sampled fruits, tasted different cheeses, and compared notes on which pastries were the best. There was a playful joy in these simple experiences, feeling that life itself was sweeter when shared together. In the evenings, they would cook meals side by side in the young woman's apartment. She chopped vegetables while he stirred sauces, both humming along to the music they loved. Sometimes they would burn a dish or make a mess, and they would laugh until their sides hurt. These moments, filled with laughter and love, became the heart of their days. They found that the ordinary routines of life could feel extraordinary when shared with someone who truly understood them. Their bond deepened as they continued to support each other's dreams. The young woman had grown in her career, finding confidence and fulfillment in her work, while he had taken on new projects that challenged him in exciting ways. They celebrated each other's successes, no matter how big or small, and offered comfort during moments of doubt. It was in these acts of support that they realized love was not just about feelings, but about action, about being present and caring for one another through life's ups and downs. They also continued to discover the subtle magic that had first drawn them together. A favorite song would play at the right moment, a shared memory would surface unexpectedly, or a small gesture would remind them of the bond they had nurtured. Each occurrence felt like a sign that their connection was extraordinary, a reminder that they were meant to be in each other's lives. The magic was no longer a fleeting spark. It was woven into the very fabric of their daily lives. One weekend, they decided to take a short trip to the countryside. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers, and the landscape stretched out in rolling hills and fields of green. They hiked together, taking in the beauty of nature and enjoying the peacefulness that came with being away from the city. Along the way, they discovered a quiet lake, where they sat on the shore, talking and laughing as the sunlight danced on the water's surface. As the day turned to evening, they built a small fire and shared a meal under the stars. The young woman leaned against him, feeling a sense of contentment and peace she had never known before. He held her close, feeling gratitude for the journey that had brought them together and the love that had grown stronger through every challenge. It was a perfect moment, a quiet affirmation that their bond was unbreakable, that life was richer because they had each other. They continued to create traditions that celebrated their connection. Every month, they would revisit the bookstore where they had first met, browsing the shelves, exchanging recommendations, and reflecting on how far they had come. They would take walks along the river, sometimes in silence, sometimes talking about their dreams for the future. These traditions, small as they might seem, became anchors in their lives, reminders of the love and magic they had nurtured together. Their love also had an impact on those around them. Friends and family noticed the joy and warmth that radiated from their relationship. They saw how each encouraged the other to grow, how they celebrated each other's successes, and how they faced challenges together. Their bond became an example of a love that was both gentle and strong, passionate yet grounded in care and understanding. It inspired those around them to value connection, trust, and the quiet magic of everyday moments. Over time, they began to envision a future where they could build a life together, supporting each other in their dreams and ambitions. They spoke of shared goals, of traveling to new places, of creating a home filled with laughter and love. These conversations were filled with excitement, hope, and a deep sense of purpose. They realized that the love they shared was not just a feeling, it was a foundation upon which they could build a life full of meaning and joy. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the city, the sun setting in shades of gold and pink, the young man spoke softly. "I never imagined that a chance encounter could change my life this much," he said. "But meeting you has shown me that love can be magical, transformative, and enduring. You've made me a better person, and I can't imagine my life without you." The young woman smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I feel the same," she replied. "You've brought so much light into my life, and I've learned so much about myself because of our love. I know that whatever comes next, we can face it together." As they held hands and watched the city below, they felt a profound sense of gratitude and joy. The journey they had shared, from the first magical encounter in a rainy bookstore, through challenges and separation, to this moment of reunion and growth, had shaped them in ways they could never have anticipated. They understood that love was not just about happy moments, but about resilience, trust, and the courage to face life together. They continued to fill their days with shared experiences and quiet moments of joy. They would visit cafes, attend concerts, explore hidden corners of the city, and sometimes simply sit in silence, enjoying each other's presence. Each moment reinforced the magic of their connection, showing them that love could be both extraordinary and rooted in the simple pleasures of life, even in their separate moments. The presence of the other remained a constant source of inspiration and comfort. The young woman would find herself smiling at memories of their time together, feeling a warmth that lingered throughout her day. The young man would think of her at unexpected times, feeling a quiet joy that made the world seem brighter. Their love had become a gentle, pervasive presence in their lives, subtle yet powerful, guiding their actions and filling their hearts with hope. As the seasons changed, their love continued to evolve. They celebrated anniversaries, marked milestones, and reflected on the journey that had brought them together. They discovered new layers of connection, deepening understanding, and an ever-growing appreciation for the small, magical moments that made their love unique. Each experience, each shared glance, each word spoken from the heart, became a testament to the enduring strength of their bond. In the quiet of one evening, as they watched the stars appear in the night sky, the young woman turned to him. "I think the most magical thing about our love," she said, "is that it has changed us in ways we never imagined. It's taught us to see beauty in the world, to be patient, kind, and courageous." He nodded, his eyes reflecting the same sense of wonder. "Yes," he replied. "Our love is more than just feelings. It's a journey, a transformation, a reminder that magic exists when two hearts are truly connected." And so, their story reached a place of quiet fulfillment. The young woman and the young man had discovered that love was not only about the grand gestures or miraculous coincidences that had first brought them together. It was about shared laughter, mutual support, resilience in the face of challenges, and the small, everyday moments that made life beautiful. Their bond had transformed them, giving them strength, joy, and a sense of purpose that would guide them through the years ahead. In the end, their love was a living, breathing magic, one that had changed them and would continue to shape their lives. They had learned that true love was both extraordinary and simple, powerful yet gentle, and that it had the ability to transform ordinary days into moments of wonder. Together, they faced the future with hope, knowing that the most magical love story was the one they were living. A story that would continue to grow, inspire, and change them every single day. As time passed, the young woman and the young man discovered that their love continued to deepen in ways neither had expected. Life had returned to a gentle rhythm, yet the spark of magic they had always felt remained constant. Every morning they woke with gratitude, knowing that the connection between them was rare and precious. And every evening they reflected on the day with joy. Finding little moments that reminded them why their love was so extraordinary, they explored new experiences together, traveling to places they had once dreamed of visiting. Each trip brought excitement, laughter, and a sense of adventure, yet also quiet moments of reflection. In a small mountain village, they watched the sun rise over misty peaks, the colors of the sky reflecting in their eyes. Sitting together in silence, they felt the peacefulness of the world around them and the certainty of their bond. It was in these quiet, shared moments that they realized the depth of their love, the comfort of companionship, and the magic of simply being together. Back in the city, they continued to cultivate routines that strengthened their connection. They often visited the bookstore where they had first met, now a place filled with cherished memories. They would browse the shelves, share books, and sometimes sit in the quiet corners, reading side by side. The young woman would occasionally find a note tucked inside a book he had chosen for her, a small gesture that made her heart swell with happiness. He, in turn, would discover a drawing or a message she had left, reminding him of the joy and love that filled their days. Their home life also became a canvas for their love. Cooking together turned into creative experiments, with playful debates over recipes and shared laughter over small mistakes. They would decorate their apartment with plants, candles, and keepsakes from their travels, creating a space that reflected both of their personalities and their shared journey. Every object held a story, a memory, or a symbol of their connection, transforming ordinary spaces into sanctuaries of love and warmth. They continued to support each other in personal growth and dreams. The young woman pursued new projects in her career, encouraged by his unwavering belief in her abilities. He, in turn, took on challenges that stretched his skills and creativity, inspired by her encouragement and faith in him. Their love became a source of strength, a wellspring of motivation, and a reminder that together, they could face anything the world presented. Even the simple routines of daily life became infused with meaning. Morning walks, shared meals, and quiet evenings together were no longer mundane, but became precious rituals. They would sometimes sit by the river, watching the city lights reflect in the water, talking about hopes and dreams, fears and challenges, or simply sitting in comfortable silence. These moments reminded them that love was not only about grand gestures, but also about presence, patience, and shared understanding. As the seasons changed, they discovered new joys and adventures. In autumn, they wandered through parks with leaves crunching beneath their feet, sharing warm drinks and stories. In winter, they built small fires wrapped in blankets, telling each other about the dreams they held in their hearts. Spring brought renewal, with flowers blooming and new possibilities arising. And summer brought light and freedom, with long walks under the golden sun. Each season, they found new ways to connect, to explore, and to enjoy life together. They also made time to nurture friendships and family connections, showing the warmth and generosity that had grown from their love. They hosted dinners, celebrated milestones, and shared laughter with those around them. The happiness they found in each other extended outward, touching the lives of friends and family and inspiring others to appreciate love and connection in their own lives. One particularly memorable day, they decided to take a quiet retreat in the countryside. Surrounded by open fields and a clear blue sky, they walked hand in hand along winding paths, breathing in the fresh air and feeling the simple joy of being together. They stopped at a small hill, sitting down to watch the sunset. As the sky shifted in colors of gold, pink and violet, they shared dreams of the future, whispered promises of love, and silently thanked the universe for bringing them together. During these quiet moments, they often reflected on their journey, the chance encounter in the bookstore, the small coincidences, the challenges of separation, and the transformative power of their love. They realized that the magic they had once felt in fleeting moments had grown into something deeper, more enduring, and more meaningful. Their connection was no longer just a spark. It had become a guiding light, illuminating their lives and inspiring them to live fully, kindly, and joyfully. They found that love was not about perfection, but about acceptance, patience, and understanding. They learned to navigate disagreements with respect and care, to communicate openly, and to always return to the foundation of trust and affection that had carried them through the years. Each challenge they faced became an opportunity to grow, to strengthen their bond, and to deepen their understanding of each other in the quiet of the night. They would sometimes lie together, looking up at the stars, feeling the immensity of the universe and the wonder of their own small, beautiful world. They would share hopes, make wishes, and reflect on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this point. It was in these moments of reflection and connection that they truly understood the depth and magic of their love. They also began to create new dreams and goals together, imagining a life filled with adventure, creativity, and shared purpose. They spoke of traveling to distant lands, of building a home that reflected their shared values, of continuing to grow together as individuals and as a couple. Each conversation, each plan, and each dream became a thread, weaving a future full of hope, joy, and shared experiences, even in the ordinary moments. The magic of their love was evident. A shared laugh over a silly joke, the comfort of a hand held in silence. The simple act of preparing a meal together all became reminders of the extraordinary connection they had nurtured. They realized that love was not only found in grand moments, but also in the quiet, persistent presence of someone who truly understood and cared for you as their journey continued. They discovered that love had the power to transform not only their own lives, but also the world around them. The joy, kindness, and understanding they shared became a ripple, affecting friends, family, and even strangers. Their love had become a force of inspiration, showing that true connection and genuine care could bring light and warmth into every corner of life. One evening, as they sat together in the soft glow of a candlelit room, the young woman turned to the young man and said, "I never imagined that love could feel like this. It's constant, alive, and ever-growing. It's changed the way I see the world and myself." He smiled, holding her hand tightly. I feel the same. It's more than I ever dreamed of, and I know that as long as we're together, we can face anything and find joy in every moment. And so, their story continued, a life filled with love, wonder, and the quiet magic that had brought them together in the first place. They understood that love was not only a feeling, but a living, evolving journey that required care, patience, and devotion. It was a love that changed them, inspired them, gave meaning to every day. Their lives became a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the beauty of shared experiences. Through every season, every challenge, and every joyful moment, they continued to grow together, discovering that the most magical love was not only the one that began with a spark, but the one that endured, deepened, and transformed every part of life.